Welcome to the Thinking Abyss podcast, a philosophical journey through consciousness, reality, and the phenomena that challenge our understanding of existence. From ancient wisdom to cutting-edge theories, we explore where philosophy meets science and curiosity leads to the edge of the unknown.
I want you to do something for me right now. It's going to seem a little weird, but just go with it.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
I want you to look at your hand. Seriously, unless you're driving, in which case, keep your eyes on the road and just visualize it. But if you can, just hold up your hand.
All right. Hand is up. It's a hand. 5 fingers. Pretty standard stuff so far.
Flex your fingers, look at the lines on your palm. It feels incredibly real, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, of course it does. It's my hand.
You can feel the tension in the muscles. You see the light reflecting off the skin. If you pinch it, it hurts. You have this overwhelming visceral certainty that this hand exists, that it belongs to you, and that it is interacting with a physical world.
It is the most basic data point we have. I am here. This is real. It's ground zero for everything else.
Exactly. Now, here is the question that is going to be the engine of our entire discussion today. And I want to warn you, it is not a comfortable question.
Oh.
It's the kind of question that, if you really let it in, makes the floor feel like it's tilting. The question is it possible, logically, genuinely possible, that that hand and the eyes looking at it and the very memory of having a hand is a lie?
And just to be clear, we aren't talking about a lie in the sense that you're mistaken about a specific fact, like, thinking it's Tuesday when it's Wednesday.
Right, not a simple error.
We're talking about a fundamental structural deception. Is it possible that everything you believe, your personal history, your moral compass, your physical reality, is completely and utterly false?
That is the cliff we are standing on today. We are looking at radical doubt. And I have to say, going through the stack of research for this, the articles, the philosophy papers, the neuroscience, it actually messed with my head a little bit.
Supposed to.
I walked outside afterwards and looked at a tree and just had this little voice in my head go, "Are you sure?"
That is a perfectly rational response. If this topic doesn't make you feel a little bit unstable, we probably haven't done our job. This isn't just armchair philosophy for bored academics to talk about while smoking pipes. This strikes at the absolute heart of what it means to be human. We navigate the world with a baseline of confidence. We trust our senses. We trust our memories.
Well, we have to. You can't function if you don't trust that the floor will hold your weight when you get out of bed.
Precisely. But the material we're covering today challenges the trust at its very root.
Yeah.
It asks, why do you trust the floor? What evidence do you actually have that isn't, at the end of the day, circular?
So the goal here isn't to give everyone a panic attack.
Not the primary goal anyway. Though, fair warning, it might happen. No, the goal is to explore the foundations of certainty. Or maybe the lack thereof.
It's a stress test. We are going to stress test reality. If our beliefs are true, they should be able to handle the pressure. If they break, well, then we have a problem.
And we have a massive roadmap to get through. We're going to look at the history of this anxiety, going all the way back to the ancient Greeks.
Then we'll get into the really nerdy stuff.
The logical traps, the mathematical and philosophical proofs that suggest we literally cannot prove anything for certain. Then we'll get into the modern Matrix-style scenarios, like the brain in a vat.
And finally, my favorite part, we'll look at the neuroscience of how our own brains are basically designed to sabotage the truth.
The glitch is coming from inside the house.
It sounds absolutely terrifying. I can't wait. Let's start with the history, because I think there's a tendency to believe this is a modern problem, right? We live in the age of deepfakes, AI, virtual reality. It's easy to think, oh, we're the first generation to wonder if reality is fake.
Which is completely wrong. This is one of the oldest human anxieties. People have been freaking out about this for at least 2,500 years. One of the earliest and sharpest voices on this was a pre-Socratic philosopher named Xenophanes.
Xenophanes, I love this guy. He was basically the first person to look at organized religion and say, hey, wait a minute, this looks a little suspicious.
He was a keen observer of human nature. He was looking at how different cultures depict their gods. You have to remember, in Greek mythology, the gods were very specific. They had human emotions, human flaws, human bodies.
They were basically superpowered, dysfunctional people.
Exactly. And Xenophanes noticed a pattern. He said, the Ethiopians say that their gods are snub-nosed and black. The Thracians say that theirs have blue eyes and red hair.
So everyone just happens to believe God looks like them. Funny how that works.
Funny how that works. We project ourselves onto the universe. But then he takes it a step further with this brilliant, slightly hilarious analogy. He says, but if cattle and horses or lions had hands, or were able to draw with their hands and do the works that men can do, horses would draw the forms of the gods like horses and cattle like cattle.
The lion god. I just picture a lion in a cave painting a giant, majestic lion in the sky with a mane made of lightning.
And commanding all his followers to eat more gazelles. But the point Xenophanes is making is so profound. He's introducing the idea of anthropocentrism, that we view the entire universe through a strictly human lens.
So we aren't seeing the truth with capital T.
No, we are seeing a human truth. We are trapped inside our own biology, our own perspective. We can't see the world as it is, only as it appears to a human.
That's a really disturbing thought. It implies that truth isn't this objective thing waiting to be found. It's a construct of whoever is doing the looking.
Yes.
If we were bats, our god would probably use sonar, and our whole physics would be based on acoustics, not light.
Precisely. And this little seed of doubt that we are trapped in our own perspective eventually blooms into a hardcore school of philosophy called Pyrrhonism, the Pyrrhonian skeptics.
Now, when we say skeptic today, we usually mean something very different. We think of someone who debunks Bigfoot sightings or doesn't believe in ghosts.
Right. A modern skeptic tries to weed out the false claims to get to the true ones.
But these guys were on a whole different level.
Completely different. Pyrrhonian skepticism wasn't about finding the truth. It was about realizing you can never be sure you've found the truth.
Their method for this was just relentless. They argued that for every single belief you hold, anything at all, say, it is good to eat vegetables, or the wind is cold, an equally plausible contrary argument can be made.
Let's use the wind example. It's a classic.
Yeah.
Let's say we're standing outside. I am shivering. I say, the wind is cold.
Okay.
You, however, just ran 5 miles. You are sweating. You say, no, the wind is cool and refreshing, but it's not cold. Who is right?
Well, we both are, from our own perspectives.
But the wind itself cannot be both cold and not cold at the same time in an objective sense.
Yeah.
So does the wind possess the property of coldness? Or is coldness just something happening inside your skin, inside my skin?
It's in my skin, it's my perception, but that means I can't say anything true about the wind itself. I can only talk about my reaction to the wind.
Bingo. You are trapped in your subjectivity. And because you can't step outside your skin to measure the true wind, the Pyrrhonists said you should practice something called epoche.
Epoche. That translates to the suspension of judgment.
Right. It's the refusal to assent to either side of an argument. You don't say the wind is cold. You don't say the wind is not cold. You say the wind appears cold to me right now. You strip the judgment of reality away from the experience.
See, this is where I struggle with the ancients. It sounds nice in theory, but practically, if I'm crossing the street and I see a chariot or, a bus coming at me, I can't suspend judgment on whether the bus is real. I have to get out of the way.
And that was the major criticism against them at the time. People said, you can't live like this. You'll walk off a cliff because you can't be sure it's there.
Seems like a fair point.
But here is the fascinating twist, and I think this is really relevant for our modern listeners who are stressed out all the time. The Pyrrhonists didn't doubt just to be annoying logic choppers. They doubted because they believed it was the only way to be happy.
Happy? By not knowing anything. That sounds like the definition of anxiety to me.
Well, think about what causes you mental anguish. It's also always a strong belief about how things should be.
Mm-hmm.
This politician is evil and destroying the country. My boss is unfair. I must have this new car to be successful. That person was rude to me, and that's wrong.
Okay, I see your point. If I didn't have a firm opinion on any of that, I'd be pretty chill.
Exactly. They believed that if you strip away the judgment, you just exist in the appearance of things,
right,
without deciding what is good, bad, true, or false, you achieve ataraxia.
Ataraxia, peace of mind.
Tranquility.
Yeah.
Unperturbedness. It is the ultimate. It is what it is. They didn't claim nothing is true, because that in itself would be a truth claim.
Oh, that's clever.
They just said, I haven't found the truth yet, so I'm going to stop worrying about it and just live by my appearances.
I respect the chill. I really do. But history didn't stop there, did it? We eventually moved away from this go-with-the-flow skepticism and hit the modern era. And we got a guy who was absolutely not chill. He was obsessed.
René Descartes.
The heavyweight champion of doubt.
The father of modern philosophy, and the guy who basically tried to perform a factory reset on human knowledge.
Let's set the scene for Descartes, because I think the context matters a lot here. He wasn't just some guy writing a blog post. He was living in the 1600s, right?
Yes. A time of massive intellectual upheaval. The scientific revolution is kicking into high gear. Galileo is proving the Earth isn't the center of the universe. The church is losing its absolute monopoly on truth.
So it was a time when everything people thought was solid was suddenly turning into sand.
Exactly. Descartes looks around and realizes, wait a second. Everything I was taught in school, Aristotle, the physics, the astronomy, it's all being proven wrong one piece at a time.
He realizes his intellectual foundation is rotten. He's building his house on a faulty foundation.
Precisely. So he decides to do something incredibly radical. He decides to demolish the house completely. He wants to find a foundation that is 100% unbreakable so he can build a new, better science on top of it.
So he locks himself in a room.
Famous for having a fireplace or a stove, yes. And he decides he is going to systematically doubt everything until he hits something he absolutely, positively cannot doubt.
This is his method of doubt. It's like a demolition crew for the mind.
It is. And he does it in stages, like peeling an onion. First, he goes after the most obvious potential liar, the senses.
Which makes sense. We all know our senses can lie to us.
Right. He uses classic examples. He looks at a stick in water. It looks bent. It's not. He looks at a square tower from a distance. It looks round. It's not.
Simple optical illusions.
Simple, but powerful, he argues. If my senses have deceived me even once, it is prudent never to trust them completely.
That's a very high bar. It's like if a witness lies once in court, their entire testimony is thrown out.
Exactly. So sensory data is gone. The external world might be different than it looks. But then he goes deeper. He says, okay, maybe my eyes tricked me about the distant tower, but surely I know I am sitting here by this fire in my dressing gown.
This is so vivid. I can picture him there.
And this leads to the dream argument. This is the one that always gets me.
It's the one that pops up in movies all the time.
And for good reason. It's powerful. He asks, how often has I dreamt I was sitting by a fire when in reality I was lying naked in bed?
We've all had those dreams, the ones that feel completely real, where you wake up and for a few seconds you are genuinely confused about which world is the real one.
And Descartes pushes it. He says there are no sure signs to distinguish waking from sleeping at any given moment. You could be dreaming this conversation right now. I could be a figment of your REM cycle.
Okay, I'm going to push back like I'm Descartes' annoying pragmatic friend. In a dream, things are usually weird. The logic is fuzzy. I walk through a door and I'm suddenly on the moon. 2 + 2 = a fish. Here right now. Math works. Logic works. Doesn't that prove I'm awake?
That is exactly what Descartes thought at first. He had the same thought. He figured, okay, even in a dream, a square has 4 sides. Math is universal. 2 + 3 is always 5, whether I'm awake or asleep.
So math saves us. Logic is the lifeline.
Not so fast. This is where Descartes realizes he needs to bring out the nuclear weapon of skepticism. He invents a scenario to destroy even math. He imagines the Malingini, the evil demon.
This is such a great concept. It sounds like a horror movie villain or a heavy metal band.
It really is. He imagines an all-powerful, godlike entity, but one that is purely malicious. This demon has dedicated its entire existence to one single goal, deceiving René Descartes.
So this demon is essentially controlling his mind. It's hacking his brain from the outside.
Yes. When Descartes looks at a square and counts 4 sides, the demon is manipulating his neurons to make him count 4, even if there are really 5. When he thinks 2 + 3 is 5, the demon is injecting that feeling of certainty, but it's a total lie.
That is profoundly terrifying. It means you can't trust your own logic. You can't trust that feeling of, aha, I get it, because the demon could be faking the aha moment itself.
Exactly. So now look at where Descartes is. He is sitting in his room. He has no body because the senses are out. He has no world because of the dream argument. And he has no math or logic because of the demon. He is just floating in a void of total, absolute uncertainty.
This is the bottom of the pit, rock bottom for knowledge.
And in that moment of total collapse, he finds it, the bedrock, the one thing that can't be demolished.
Cogito ergo sum.
I think, therefore I am.
Walk us through the mechanics of that realization. Why is that the thing that stops the demon? Why can't the demon trick him into thinking he exists when he doesn't?
It's a beautiful, elegant, logical loop, he realizes. The demon is trying to deceive me. But in order to be deceived, there must be a me for the demon to deceive.
You can't trick a zero. You can't lie to a nothing.
Precisely. Even if I am doubting that I exist, doubting is a form of thinking. If I am thinking, I must exist as a thinking thing. The content of my thoughts might be 100% garbage. The demon might be feeding me fake news 24/7. But the fact that the thinking is happening cannot be faked.
It's the one thing that is self-validating. The very act of doubting your existence proves your existence.
It was a massive victory for him. He found the indubitable point, the Archimedean point from which he believed he could move the world of knowledge.
But, and I feel like there's a big but coming. Does it actually get us anywhere? Okay, great. I exist. Yay, me. But I still don't know if you exist. I don't know if this table exists. I'm just a floating point of consciousness in a void.
And this is where the major critique comes in. It's a problem called solipsism, the idea that only your own mind is sure to exist.
So you're stuck in your own head.
You're stuck. Descartes tries to build the world back up from here. He tries to prove God exists, and then argues that because God is perfect and good, God wouldn't allow the evil demon to trick him about the basic stuff, so therefore the external world is probably real.
That sounds a little circular, doesn't it? God exists because I clearly think he does, and my clear thoughts are true because God guarantees them.
It is famously circular. It's known as the Cartesian circle. Most modern philosophers don't buy that part of the argument. So Descartes gets us to the I am, but he kind of leaves us stranded there. We are stuck inside our own skulls, unable to prove that anything outside them is real.
So we have the cogito, but we're lonely. And this seems like a good place to pivot to the next section of our research, which is all about why it is so hard to break out of that head.
Right. You need a criterion for what makes a good apple. Let's say your criterion is red apples are good.
Simple enough. I keep the red ones, throw away the green ones and the brown ones.
But how do you know that redness is the correct criterion for goodness? Maybe the green ones are the tasty Granny Smiths and the red ones are poisonous. How do you check your criterion?
Well, I need a way to test my criterion, so I guess I need a criterion for the criterion. Maybe my new standard is I'll take a bite, and if it tastes good, that's the real test.
Okay, so your new, higher criterion is taste. But how do you know your taste buds are accurate? Maybe you have a virus that makes sweet things taste sour? Or maybe you're hallucinating the taste entirely. You need a way to validate your taste buds.
I check with a doctor, get a medical test.
How do you know the doctor's test is right? What criterion do you use to trust the doctor and his equipment?
Oh no, it's turtles all the way down.
It's the infinite regress. To prove A, you need B. To prove B, you need C. And on forever. You either end up in an infinite chain, which is impossible, or you end up in a circle.
My taste is right because the doctor said so, and the doctor is right because my taste tells me he is.
Circular reasoning. Or you do what most people do. You just arbitrarily stop and say, because I said so.
Which has a fancy name, doesn't it?
Foundationalism. We pick a spot like, my senses are generally reliable, and we declare it true by fiat without proof just so we can get on with our lives. But logically, it's cheating. It's an arbitrary starting point.
That's deeply unsettling. It means our entire knowledge base rests on an unproven assumption, A, just because. But there is another trap that I think hits science even harder. Because science is supposed to be the antidote to all this philosophical hand-wringing, right? Science is about observation, patterns, facts.
And that is exactly where the philosopher David Hume attacks. This is a problem of induction. And honestly, this is the one that really keeps scientists and philosophers of science up at night.
So laid out for us, it starts with something really simple, like the sun rising.
It seems like the most obvious truth in the world. The sun will rise tomorrow. If I ask you why you believe that, what do you say?
I'd say, because it rose yesterday, and the day before that, and for the last 4.5 billion years before that. I have a massive data set.
So you are using past events to predict future events. That is called inductive reasoning. We do it all the time. But Hume asks a very simple, very annoying question. What logical justification do you have that the future must resemble the past?
Well, because the laws of physics, gravity, the Earth's rotation, those things are constant.
But how do you know the laws of physics will be the same tomorrow? Maybe gravity takes Wednesdays off. Maybe the law of conservation of energy expires tonight at midnight.
Because they have always been consistent in the past.
You see what you just did?
Oh, I use the past to prove that the past can predict the future.
It's pure circular reasoning. You cannot use induction to prove that induction is a valid form of reasoning. Hume's point is that we have absolutely no logical reason to assume the future must be like the past.
Yeah.
We just have a very strong habit of expecting it to be.
But come on, this feels like a word game. Clearly, the past does predict the future. We build bridges that stand up. We make medicines that cure diseases. Induction works.
Does it? Or have we just been lucky so far? There's a famous analogy here from the philosopher Bertrand Russell. He talks about a chicken, or some people say turkey on a farm.
The inductivist turkey.
Right. Imagine a very scientific turkey. Every single day of its life, at 9 a.m., the farmer comes out and gives it food. Day 1, fed. Day 50, fed. Day 100, fed.
So the turkey collects data. It builds a robust scientific model. The appearance of the farmer at 9 a.m. is causally linked to the appearance of food.
The turkey has extremely high statistical confidence. The past confirms the future perfectly. The law of feeding is established as a bedrock truth of the universe.
Morning of Thanksgiving.
And suddenly, the pattern breaks catastrophically. The farmer is not the dispenser of food. He's the chopper of heads.
And the turkey science failed it at the precise moment it mattered most.
Because the turkey made the uniformity of nature assumption. It assumed the future would look like the past. Hume is suggesting, we are all turkeys. We assume gravity will hold tomorrow. We assume the sun will rise. But we don't know for sure. We are just betting on a very long winning streak.
That makes science feel less like the truth with a capital T and more like a really effective gambling system that just hasn't busted yet.
That's a pretty good way to put it. Hume said our belief isn't based on reason, but on custom and habit. It's a psychological comfort, not a rational proof.
Okay, so we can't prove our method of sorting truth. That's the criterion problem. And we can't prove that the future will behave like the past. That's induction. But at least we have math, right? The pure, clean world of logic. Even if the demon is messing with us, math feels solid.
Well, it felt solid. Until 1931.
And a man named Kurt Gödel.
The man who broke logic. He published his incompleteness theorems. And we don't need to get into complex mathematical notation to understand the shockwaves this sent through math, logic, and even computer science.
Give us the big picture. What did he prove?
He proved two devastating things. First, that in any logical system complex enough to do basic arithmetic, there will always be statements that are true, but cannot be proven from within that system.
Wait a minute. So something can be true, but you can't prove it's true.
Inside the system, yes. There are inherent, unavoidable blind spots built into the very fabric of logic. And second, and maybe even worse, he proved that no such system can demonstrate its own consistency.
What does consistency mean in this context, free of contradictions?
Exactly. Imagine you have a rule book for a game. Can that rule book contain a rule that says there are no errors or contradictions in this rule book?
I suppose it could, yeah.
But does that rule prove there are no errors?
No, because that rule itself could be the error. It's pulling itself up by its own bootstraps.
Exactly. To check the rulebook for errors, you need to step outside the rulebook and compare it to something else. But Gödel showed we cannot step outside of logic to check logic. We are stuck inside the system. We can never be 100% certain that mathematics isn't fundamentally broken with some hidden contradiction deep down. We just have to assume it works.
It's like driving a car where the check engine light is wired to the engine itself. The light can't tell you if the engine is broken, because if the engine is broken, the light is broken too.
That is a perfect analogy.
So let's just take a breath here and take stock. We've had the ancient Greeks tell us everything is just subjective appearance. We've had Descartes tell us a demon might be hacking our brains. We've had Hume tell us the sun might not rise tomorrow. And we've had Gödel tell us that math itself has unprovable holes in it.
It's a tough day for certainty.
It is. But now we have to make it even worse. Because we have to modernize it. We don't worry about demons in the same way anymore. We worry about technology.
Section 3. The brain in a vat.
This is the 20th century update to Descartes' evil demon. And this is the one that science fiction absolutely loves. The Matrix, Inception, all of it comes from this thought experiment.
The premise is simple but utterly devastating. Imagine a mad scientist, the modern evil demon. He kidnaps you in your sleep. He performs a delicate operation, removes your brain, and places it in a vat of nutrient fluid to keep it alive and functioning.
That's a lovely image. Thanks for that.
It gets better. He then hooks up thousands of electrodes to all your sensory neurons, optic nerves, auditory nerves, everything. And he connects those electrodes to a supercomputer.
And the computer runs a simulation.
He runs a perfect simulation of reality. It sends electrical impulses that perfectly mimic the experience of living in the world.
So when I smell coffee...
It's just a line of code triggering your olfactory nerve.
When I feel the warmth of the sun on my face...
Just a specific voltage applied to a specific set of neurons.
And the kicker, the really horrible part, is from the inside, the experience is identical to reality. There is no glitch, no pixelation, no lag.
Exactly. If the simulation is perfect, There is literally no test you can perform to prove you aren't in the vat.
Yeah.
Because any test you try to do, pinching yourself, looking at your hand, running a science experiment, it's just more simulation.
But surely, and here I go trying to fight back again, surely I can say it's just incredibly unlikely. Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is usually the right one, and I'm a real person in a real world feels a lot simpler than I'm a disembodied brain in a jar being fed a simulation by a supercomputer run by a mad scientist.
Is it simpler? Or is it just more familiar and comforting?
Well, what are the odds? Come on, it just feels so improbable.
Now you are trying to use probability, or try to use a type of reasoning called Bayesian inference. But here is the trap. To calculate the probability of something, you need a sample set. You need to know the prior probabilities.
Explain that. What does that mean here?
To know if it's unlikely to be a brain in a vat, you would need to know how common brain in vat setups are in the real world. You need to be able to step out of the simulation, look at the real universe, count how many brains are in vats versus how many are in skulls, and then do the math.
But I can't step out. That's the whole problem.
Exactly. You are trapped in your data set. If you are in a simulation, all your data about how the world works is fake data fed to you by the computer. You cannot use the rules of the simulation to judge the likelihood of the simulation itself.
That's brain melting. It's a Bayesian failure. I can't establish a baseline for reality because I have no access to the baseline.
You are flying completely blind.
And this isn't just a sci-fi game, is it? This touches on how we do actual science. The notes here mention something called the underdetermination of theory by evidence.
This is a fancy term for a simple but really annoying problem in science. The evidence we see, the data we collect, can often fit more than one competing theory.
Can you give me an example?
Let's go back to the sun. It's a great one. You stand on Earth and you see the sun rise in the east, move across the sky, and set in the west. That is the data.
Okay, simple enough.
Theory A. The Earth is stationary, and the sun orbits around us once a day. This is the geocentric model. Theory B. The sun is stationary, and the Earth spins on its axis once a day. The heliocentric model.
And from my perspective on the ground, just looking up, both theories fit the visual data perfectly.
Right. And for thousands of years, the smartest people on Earth believed Theory A. They had proof. They had complex math. They had detailed observations. And they were completely, utterly wrong. The data underdetermined the theory.
And this connects to the work of Thomas Kuhn, who wrote The Structure of Scientific Revolutions.
A hugely influential book. Kuhn argued that science doesn't just build a single ever-growing brick wall of facts. It builds a whole wall, then later realizes the wall's in the wrong field entirely, knocks the whole thing down, and starts over somewhere else.
These are paradigm shifts.
Exactly. Newtonian physics was considered the truth for centuries. It worked brilliantly. We built the Industrial Revolution with it. Then Einstein came along and said, actually, gravity isn't a force pulling things, it's a curvature in space-time. Boom. The entire paradigm shifts. Newton is out, or at least downgraded to a special case.
Then quantum mechanics comes along and says, actually, at the smallest scales, reality is fundamentally probabilistic and particles can be in two places at once, which breaks Newtonian and Einsteinian intuition all over again.
And here's the scary thought that follows from that. If we look back at Aristotle's physics and laugh, and if you look back at Newton and say, well, that was a good approximation, but not quite right, what's to stop people in the year 3000 from looking back at our quantum mechanics and laughing at how primitive it was?
History suggests the answer is yes, they almost certainly will.
Which means our current scientific truths might just be the best stories we have right now. Stories that work for our current purposes, but are waiting to be overturned by the next paradigm shift. We probably shouldn't get too arrogant about them.
So the external world is suspect, the future is unprovable, science is a moving target. But surely I am reliable, my brain, my own tool for thinking. That has to be good, right? Please tell me my brain is working properly.
I wish I could give you a win here, I really do. But Section 4 is called the glitch in the machine, and the machine is us.
This is where we talk about cognitive biases.
Even if the external world is 100% real and behaves according to consistent laws, the lens we are looking through our brain is cracked, warped, and covered in smudges. We are riddled with bugs.
Let's run through the greatest hits. Confirmation bias.
We actively seek out and favor information that confirms what we already believe, and we ignore or dismiss information that challenges it. If you believe the world is a dangerous place, you will notice every crime story on the news and completely ignore the thousands of acts of kindness that happen every day. You are filtering reality to fit your script.
Then there's the backfire effect. This one drives me crazy in everyday life.
This is when you show someone solid evidence that contradicts their deeply held belief. And instead of changing their mind, they do the opposite. They double down. They believe the falsehood more strongly because they feel attacked.
It explains every single political argument I've ever had at Thanksgiving dinner.
It does. Our brains treat an attack on our ideas like a physical attack from a predator. We go into fight or flight mode, not rational deliberation mode.
And then there's a really weird one called confabulation. This one comes from neuroscience, and it scares me the most.
This is a wild one. It comes from experiments like studies on split brain patients or more recent choice blindness studies that show our conscious mind is often the last to know what's happening. It's not the driver. It's the press secretary.
Tell us about the choice blindness one. That's a great example.
So researchers show a participant 2 photos of faces and ask, which one do you find more attractive? The participant looks at them and points to face A.
Okay. Simple enough.
The researcher then puts the photos down, does a bit of sleight of hand magic, and hands the participant face B, the one they didn't choose, and says, okay, great choice. Tell me why you picked this one.
And the participant says, wait a minute, you handed me the wrong one.
You'd think so,
Right.
but no. In the vast majority of cases, the participant takes the wrong photo and immediately starts explaining why they chose it. They'll say, oh, I liked her smile, or I was drawn to his eyes. They invent a reason after the fact to justify a choice they didn't even make.
And they genuinely believe it. They're not just playing along.
They believe it 100%. Their brain confabulated.
Yeah.
It made up a plausible story to make sense of the situation, to maintain a consistent narrative of, I am a rational person who makes choices for reasons.
So we are fundamentally storytelling machines. We don't just observe reality, we edit it in post-production to make ourselves the hero of the story.
We are strangers to ourselves. We have this illusion that we are the CEO of our brain, sitting in a control room making rational decisions. But a lot of the time, we are just the PR spokesperson who gets a memo from the subconscious and has to spin it for the press.
Okay, let's recap this nightmare. I can't prove the world is real. That's the brain in a vat. I can't prove the future will happen. That's induction. I can't prove my logic is sound. That's Descartes' demon and Gödel. And the very brain I'm using to worry about all of this is a biased, lying, storytelling machine.
You have summarized the existential crisis beautifully.
Thanks. I hate it. So let's look at the specific existential crises this whole mess triggers, because it's not just an abstract puzzle. It touches everything we care about.
Let's look at personal identity. We touched on this with Descartes' thinking thing, but let's go deeper. Am I the same person I was yesterday?
It certainly feels like I am. I have the memories from yesterday.
But you also have the classic ship of Theseus problem. If you replace every plank and sail on a wooden ship one by one over 100 years, is it the same ship at the end?
And biologically, our cells are constantly dying and being replaced. The atoms that make up my body today are not the same atoms that made it up 10 years ago. I am literally not made of the same stuff.
And what about mentally? Your personality changes, your beliefs change, your memories fade. And worse, every time you recall a memory, neuroscience tells us you're not playing back a video file, you are actively reconstructing the story. You subtly rewrite it every time.
David Hume, our friend the skeptic, had a thought on this too, right?
He did. He tried to find his self. He looked inside himself through introspection and said, I can never catch myself. He can find a thought, a feeling, a sensation of cold or heat, but he couldn't find the thinker behind the thoughts.
He just found the bundle of experiences.
Right. He came up with the bundle theory. The self, he argued, is just a bundle of fleeting impressions moving incredibly fast. We spin a narrative thread to tie them all together and call it me, but the continuous, unchanging me is a useful fiction.
A useful fiction, but a fiction nonetheless. Okay, what about morality? The source material brings up moral skepticism.
This is a really tough one. We all have this powerful feeling that murder is wrong, is a fact about the universe. It feels as solid as rocks are hard.
It feels objective, like it would be wrong even if everyone on Earth decided it was okay.
But the moral skeptic asks, where is the wrongness? Can you point to it? You can point to the rock. You can point to the property of hardness.
Mm-hmm.
But wrongness, where does it live?
It's not a physical property. It's a value judgment.
Right. And if it's a judgment, where does it come from? Is it just a cultural preference we were taught? Is it an evolutionary emotion, a feeling of disgust designed by natural selection to help the tribe survive? If so, saying murder is wrong is basically just a very emphatic way of saying, I really, really don't like murder.
That's the boo-hurrah theory of ethics. Murder, boo, charity, Hurrah.
Exactly. And if that's true, then there are no objective moral facts in the universe, just moral feelings.
That is a dangerous idea. It makes the foundations of law and justice feel very flimsy. And finally, let's talk about testimony.
This brings us back to the social world. Just think for a second about how much of your knowledge comes not from your own experience, but from what other people have told you.
Almost all of it. I believe in atoms. I've never seen one. I believe in Antarctica. Never been there. I believe that the Battle of Hastings happened in 1066.
Yeah.
I wasn't there to check.
You rely on testimony. You trust your teachers, scientists, historians, journalists. But historically, testimony has been absolute garbage a lot of the time. Huge groups of people, entire civilizations, have passionately believed things that were completely false.
Which is casting spells, the Earth being the center of the universe.
Exactly. If our sources are biased, or if we are stuck in an ideological echo chamber, or if there's a concerted disinformation campaign, then massive chunks of our knowledge are just shared delusions. We are downloading corrupted files into our brain and calling it truth.
Okay, stop. Labs. I need a lifeline. We have torn the entire house down. There is nothing left but rubble and philosophical despair. Please tell me there is a way to live with this. How do we cope?
We don't just curl up in a ball and give up. That's the important part. Philosophers haven't just posed these problems. They've also tried to find pragmatic ways to navigate them.
Okay, good. Let's start with pragmatism. This is William James, right?
Well, the pragmatic response. It's a very American philosophy, very practical. James basically cuts through all the abstraction and asks, what is the cash value of a belief?
Cash value. What does he mean by that?
He means, what practical difference does it make to your actual lived life? If believing that the external world is real allows you to walk through a door without smashing your face, then that belief works. It has high cash value.
So truth isn't about perfectly matching some hidden cosmic reality that we can never access. It's about utility. Does the belief help you function?
Exactly. For the pragmatist, if a belief helps you navigate the world, predict experiences, and flourish, that is the only kind of truth that matters. You don't need absolute metaphysical certainty. You need a cognitive map that gets you to the grocery store and back.
I like that. It's functional. It says, okay, maybe I'm in the matrix, but even in this matrix, I need to eat, so I'm going to believe in the reality of the sandwich.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Then there's a different approach from the philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein. He had this wonderful idea he called hinge propositions.
I love this image, a hinge on a door.
He argued that some of our most basic beliefs aren't things we prove or debate. They are the hinges on which the door of all our questions and doubts turns.
Give me an example of a hinge belief.
I have hands. Or, the earth has existed for a long time before my birth. Wittgenstein said, if you start genuinely doubting that you have hands, the whole game of asking questions and demanding proof falls apart. You can't use logic to doubt the very background conditions that let you use logic in the first place.
So the door of inquiry needs its hinges to move at all. If you try to question the hinges, the door just falls off and lies uselessly on the floor.
Right. You have to accept the hinges, not because they are proven true in some absolute sense, but because they are the necessary framework, the rules of the game of knowing.
And this seems to lead to a third way, which is moderate skepticism. This is where I think I probably land.
It's where most reasonable people land, I think. It's about moving away from a binary of true or false and thinking in terms of degrees of confidence. We have to admit we can't have absolute 100% certainty that belongs to gods or fanatics. But we can have reliable confidence.
So it's not a switch that's on or off. It's a dimmer dial. It's not, is it true or false? It's, is it 99.9% likely to be true or 10% likely?
Exactly. It's about fostering intellectual humility. It's the ability to say, this is what I believe based on the best available evidence, but I am open to the possibility that I am wrong.
And we have to give Hume the final word here because he started a lot of this trouble with induction. How did he personally deal with it? Did he live in a cave paralyzed by doubt?
No. And that's the best part of his story. He describes sitting in his study, thinking these terrifying skeptical thoughts, and getting completely depressed and confused by the logical conclusions. And then what would he do?
I don't know.
He would leave the room. He'd go play billiards with his friends. He'd go out to a nice dinner. He'd laugh and talk about gossip.
And the doubt. What happened to the doubt?
He said, nature is always too strong for principle. We are biological creatures. We are hardwired to believe in the world around us. When a billiard ball comes flying at your head, you duck. You don't pause to consider the problem of induction or whether you're a brain in a vat.
So biology saves us from the paralysis of pure philosophy.
In a way, yes. We can be skeptics in the study, but we have to be believers in the street. We can't live as full-blown radical skeptics. We have to believe just to survive.
So what does this all mean for us sitting here today? We've explored that we can't prove the external world, we can't prove the future, we can't even prove we are the same person we were yesterday.
That sounds pretty bleak when you list it all out like that.
It does. But there is a silver lining, isn't there? This isn't just a recipe for despair.
There is. This whole exercise isn't meant to lead to nihilism. It's an invitation to curiosity.
How so? What's the connection?
If you are absolutely 100% certain that you are right about everything, you stop looking. You stop listening. You stop learning. Dogmatism, blind certainty, is the enemy of growth. It's intellectual death.
Right. If I know I'm right, then I don't need to hear your perspective. Your disagreement is just noise, an error to be corrected.
Exactly. But if you hold that little grain of doubt, if you keep in the back of your mind, I could be wrong about this, you become a better listener. You become more humble. You become less of a jerk to people who disagree with you.
Questioning prevents fanaticism.
It keeps the mind open. It keeps the air moving in the room.
So here's the final thought we want to leave you with. It's a bit of a paradox, but I think it fits this entire conversation perfectly.
Everything you believe might be false. The logic is sound. The doubt is real and cannot be fully refuted.
Yeah.
But you have to believe it anyway to live.
You have to step out of bed in the morning. You have to trust the floor will be there. You have to trust the sun will rise. You have to love your friends and family, even if they are just complex bundles of fleeting impressions.
The wisdom isn't in finding the perfect, unbreakable answer, because there probably isn't one. The wisdom is in embracing the tension. It's about learning to live confidently at the very edge of certainty.
Knowing you might be deceived, but playing the game with passion and integrity anyway? Maybe that's the human condition.
We are finite creatures trying to get our heads around a possibly infinite reality. The gap will likely never close, but the journey across it is everything.
Thank you for taking this journey with us. I hope your reality is still intact, or at least a functional and pleasant simulation of it.
See you in the next one.
Take care, everyone.